a 403B. It's an inward 1.5 somersault pike, so she's going to start backwards, and she's going to rotate toward the diving board 1.5 times in the pike position. So bent legs, or bent at the waist, but straight legs. That's a really solid start for her. So I really love how high it goes in the air. Nice straight legs. She could be a little bit better with her pointed feet. Those scores in the 7 range, really a good dive.
This is now the freshman Grace Courtney from Notre Dame, 10th in the 3-meter event that's already taken place here.
Grace's first dive was a forward 2.5 somersaults pike, so she starts with a front takeoff there. It's a satisfactory dive. It's a little bit washed over on the end. She does have a nice big jump, good position, but she got to work on that vertical entry too. So there's a lot of components moving on each particular dive.
Here's Samantha Veer from Florida State, 6th in the 3-meter yesterday, the junior for the Seminoles.
And she chooses to start with a twisting dive, so she's going to do a back 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. And that's going to be a solid effort there. I would say that's probably going to be in the 6.5 range. 6.5, where it's a solid, satisfactory dive, but not quite high enough, vertical enough to get the good scores or higher.
Lindsay Gizzi of Louisville. And how much goes into the determination of what dives to do and in what order for every athlete?
You know, they've got to cover all 5 categories, and they got to try and figure out what gives them the best opportunity to kind of do them well. Some people like to start with back takeoff. Some people like to start with a front takeoff. This is a forward hurdle for her. Again, that forward 2.5 somersault pike. She's got really long straight lines. Could be a little tighter with her knees in the pike. There's a slight bend there, but a pretty decent.
Now the senior from Virginia, Jennifer Bell, going through a coaching change at UVA.
Josh Arndt, the new coach there, came in this year. So she is a senior. This is her second final of the weekend, but it's her first time making finals at the ACCs. And that's a great start. That's a really hard dive to start with somersault pike, and a lot of times people find that backs and reverses determine kind of the winners of the characters. That's a nice early come out, straight up and down underwater. You don't judge that part, but that knee save action to stop it at vertical.
Here's Emily Grund from North Carolina, 3rd in the 3-meter yesterday. Half a dozen finals in the ACC for this.
Emily also starts with the inward 1.5 somersault pike. It's a pretty easy dive for people. She really does a nice job of getting it up and vertical. Love her toe point and line up into the entry.
And now, Mia Vali from the University of Miami, NCAA champion from a year ago.
She is also starting with that 403B, that inward 1.5 somersaults pike. So we just saw 2 back-to-back and see the difference in how high Mia goes. Mia goes on her start, and she's up almost by the 3-meter when she finishes the 1.5 somersault pike and puts it in. So you have to balance both of those pieces out.
All right, so final diver in this first rotation, Aranza Vasquez Montano. 4th last year in the ACC championships.
So on the hurdle and nice and up and down on the end, nice stretch. Look how strong and high it goes. The only thing I would love to see is be a little cleaner on the entry. You see that splash kind of come up.
Not for Virginia Tech's Izzy Mraz, the 5th-year senior in her first final. Again, she was at the bottom of the standings after the prelims. They started reverse order in every rotation here of their finish from earlier. Top divers going last.
So pike, the same dive we just saw Aranza do at the end of the first round. Not quite as high on that, and as you see her go through the water.
Grace Courtney, the freshman from Notre Dame, with her second dive.
Good, so you see Grace does a forward 1.5 somersault with 1 twist. So that is an actual dive that is a little easier degree of difficulty at that 2.2 level, but big, strong jump and going that way. I'm sure she's working towards those more difficult dives as you're going, but you have to figure out which one's going to work best for you at that point. She'll get there.
Samantha Veer from Florida State.
So I love that front 2.5 pike by Samantha. Look how straight and balanced she is in her hurdle and how high it is. Comes out to control it and straight up.
How much is momentum a part of this? You have 6 dives and we're still early here. Is it different dive to dive, or can you get on a roll?
You can get on a roll. I think it's all about trying to figure out how you best compete. You know, what is it you need to do? Do you need to talk to other people? And I think the finals are so hard because they go so much faster than your prelims. So that's a nice back 1.5 somersault pike by there. It was just a little bit pulled by on the finish and not quite flat and straight on the entry.
When it goes so fast, like, how does that impact your routine?
Well, you know, you have to prepare for it, right? Like, if in the prelims, I think we had 38 women, 37 women in the prelims, so you're probably going once every 19 minutes-ish. Now you're going once every 4. That makes a big difference on how you prepare. So what I like about this dive is that, look where she is on the end of the board, but she does a nice job of not get control and get there and not panic and freak out and still do a good dive. Not a great dive, not in the good scores, but a satisfactory when that could have actually been poor.
Emily Grund from UNC.
So you see her getting a little bit of, she steps back on the end of the diving board, doesn't quite land with her toes directly on the end, and so then her chest moves forward and it moves away. That creates that extra momentum, and it's hard to stop at the end.
She's a good story. 5th year last year, out battling cancer, which is now in remission. Good news, and back here at the ACC Championships in the final this year.
Yeah, absolutely exciting to have her back.
Mia Vali.
So this is a really important dive for Mia. This is an inward 2.5 somersault tuck. It's the hardest degree of difficulty you're going to see in the contest. So she's going to rotate backwards. Go stand backwards, but rotate forward 2.5 times toward the diving board. And that's a 3.1 degree difficulty. 2.4. Love that she goes up and gets it moving. She's got a lot of dive to get done, and it's up and down. The scores are not quite in that same range where you're talking about the 7s, but because of the higher degree of difficulty, she still gets a lot of points for her totals.
Highest degree of difficulty we've seen so far here in these finals. Now Aranza Vasquez Montano from UNC, who competed in the Olympics for Mexico in Tokyo.
This is her inward 1.5 somersault pike. Again, 2.4 instead of 3.1 you just saw in front of her. The lower degree of difficulty, but you're going to see these higher execution scores because look how high she jumps. Great position, body going in. Those 8s and 8.5s, those are going to end up with really close to where we are.
In competition, 3rd dives coming up next. What has stood out the most so far to you?
You know, what I think is that you see some people in their first finals and some nerves. You see some people who've been here before that are looking very confident and just kind of trying to chug along. But Aranza's really on a roll. We'll see if she can carry that through. So a nice back 1.5 somersault pike here from Izzy, a little bit short, and then you see some flex feet as she comes out because she's got her.
So Grace Courtney, the freshman from Notre Dame, coming up, and then Samantha Veer of Florida State.
This is her reverse 1.5, so going forward but rotating back toward the diving board, and that's going to be satisfying. Slow, getting connected all the way into the pike is good, but her knees are a little bent, and then she's got flat feet and kind of losing and going in.
One thing about going so quick, if you don't have a dive you want, it's mandatory that you kind of put it behind you right away. You don't have time to dwell on it.
This is Samantha's back 1.5 somersault pike at 2.3 degree difficulty. But so Nice connection. It's moving very well. Got to get out just a little sooner and put her body straight so that it doesn't wash over on the end. Puts that in that satisfactory category.
So Lindsay Gizzi of Louisville up next.
So Lindsay's doing a reverse 1.5 somersault pike, same dive we just saw from Grace. So I like details, right? So she's on the end of the diving board there in her hurdle, and it goes straight up in that nice position. But again, the knees are a little soft and not quite all the way extended in the pike position, but you're trying to get, you also have to be straight with your legs.
So Jennifer Bell.
It's a big dive for Jennifer. This is a reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck. Also a 3.0. That was a good job with that.
Her highest degree of difficulty of any of her dives tonight.
Yeah, I love where she's balance-wise. She's a little bit on her knees and split in her tuck, and that's a deduction that the judges see it from the vertical and up and down. She hit that 60-point mark that we're kind of looking at as, hey, if you're going to be at the top, that's what you're trying to get.
Now back around to Emily Grund, the Tar Heel.
And this is a little lower degree of difficulty at 2.3, that back 1.5 somersault pike. So you're going backwards, rotating backwards. Maybe a little excited there, just pulled it by a little bit too much instead of holding that shape, and you can see Emily knows it. She's looking over her coach and shaking her head kind of little. Yeah, it's a little over.
When it's going so quick, do you have time to process what you might need to improve on?
Not so much what you might need to improve on, but kind of just like, oh yeah, that's what happened, and kind of that quick kind of discussion, coach, and even just meeting eyes, and then kind of moving on. There'll be time to kind of work on that in the next one, not necessarily. So Mia's front 2.5 somersault pike. Look how strong and powerful she is there, all the way into the pike and straight up and down. A little bit out, but very nice.
And now Aranza Vasquez Montano, final diver in this.
This is her back 1.5 somersault pike. Again, lowest degree of difficulty of the dive. She does 2.4. She's gonna like that. Now, she's got so much power and strength, and you see it get in quickly. Look how early she comes out and puts her feet down and controls it with her hands. Still washes just a tiny bit over, but nice.
Her most difficult dive is coming up next after this one, but getting things started here in this fourth rotation.
So this time she's gonna do the reverse 1.5 pike. Next time she'll do a reverse 2.5 somersaults tuck. So same direction, forward hurdle, and then rotating back towards the diving board. On her hurdle, she gets a little close to the end of the diving board and then hurdles backwards, and then has a hard time quite getting there because it moves a little too far forward, and so it ends up being
Grace Courtney from Notre Dame here.
So you see Grace is doing a back 1.5 pike. Same dive we've seen from other divers, going backwards. And that one's, again, those are hard to control because where a lot of girls or women are in this range of 2.3 for a back 1.5 or a 3.0 on a back 2.5, not quite in between, so it's hard to kind of stop it at that right spot.
Well, for Samantha Veer of Florida State, who is coming up.
Yeah, this is another 3.0 reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. So going forward, rotating back toward the diving board. So what you see here, is that hurdling to the corner of the diving board and really in kind of trouble. Does a nice job to even get there, but that's really difficult. That's that hop hurdle. There's a huge reward. You can make the board go higher, but you also have the kind of the risk, or you got to be in the middle of where you land. But we'll come back. That happens. Working on it.
Now Lindsay Gizzi.
And that's a really nice Immer 1.5 somersault pike again. 2.4, a little backed away from the hip from the diving board there. I'd like to see it go up and over a little bit more, but nice and vertical, so solid scores.
And now Jennifer Bell from Virginia had her most difficult dive in the last rotation. This not as demanding.
Yeah, so this one's another twisting dive. So back 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twist. You can twist in multiple directions as far as the categories go. again, she's just been up and down, up and down, up and down, and continuing to get 6.5 sevens and really score in the way that she wants to, that puts her in this piece to be competitive and finish in a high spot.
Now, Emily Grund, one of the divers here that does not have a degree of difficulty at 3 or above.
So this is her reverse 1.5 somersault pike at 2.4. One of Emily's best characteristics is she's usually very consistent and up and down. You also see her kind of hit the corner of the diving board there a little bit to the left-hand side, but doesn't panic, holds her arms still, and gets it moving and goes in. But that is slightly off to the side of the board. If the judges do see that, that's a deduction and a come down.
Now Mia from Miami. And this is a big dive for her.
Yeah, this is Mia's reverse 2.5 tuck. That second 3.0 or higher degree of difficulty. And Mia's been on a tear the last couple years, just doing really well in all these international events. And it's because of some things like this that she jumps so high and is aggressive and balanced, small inner tuck, spots where she needs to come out, puts her feet right up and down, and nice vertical in.
Third in the World Cup representing Canada. And now back to Aranza Vasquez Montano.
So we may not get the exact same dive, but you at least get to see comparisons of how high they jump in their hurdle, and look how far the board goes down and how much patience they have to ride it up to the top. And again, she's above the 3 meter when she finishes this dive, and watch her come out and point her feet down at the water so that she doesn't go over. It's beautiful pike position. Love the hands down and look back, and great grabbing her hands and nice.
Izzy Mraz of Virginia Tech, the 50-year senior in her first final, coming up here. And for Izzy, this is her most difficult dive of the night.
I love the big smile there. You know, probably over at coach going, okay, here's this reverse 2.5 somersault tuck that's 3.0. Big dive. Want to see a good hurdle first and get herself a good position. A better takeoff. I love it. So you can see she's in a lot better balance when she gets in her position here and pushes it up in her hurdle and goes up. Small tuck, finds vertical and a strong kick. It's so good to see the women continuing to going up with the harder degree difficulty dives as well.
Grace Courtney, the freshman. And again, one of those divers who is all sub-3 in terms of degree of difficulty.
And you know, it takes some time. You're building strength and power as you're coming into college programs. You're getting more access to weightlifting facilities, doing some more of those components. This is up back 1.5 somersault with a half twist, 2.1 degree of difficulty. So what I would say is that her opportunity in getting into the final by having these lower degree of difficulty, she was really executing at a high level in the prelims, and that matters, right? You can only do is what you can do at that point.
Who's making those decisions, the athlete or the coach?
It's a balance, right? You got to kind of keep working on it. You got to be in your competitive mode, but also working towards what's your goal, so trying to do that. But the coaches and the athletes usually work really closely together about, hey, here's where I think we should go. And, you know, it depends from coach to coach who gets that final say.
Samantha Veer coming off her most difficult dive. Now, this slightly less so.
And a lot of power going up that way. Again, our angle is not quite where the judges are. We're a little off from the front, so sometimes it's a little more difficult to see some of those things like the legs going apart and some of that. But from the side, that looks really good. It's getting scores in the 7.5 to 8 range, which totals at 54 points.
Here's Lindsay Gizzi. And Lindsay, the transfer from Colorado State, in her first final here tonight from the University of Louisville.
So what I want you to see here is I want you to look at her feet where she lands out of her hop here, right there, and then watch where her feet land on the diving board when she comes back. She steps back a little bit, and that makes it harder to get her momentum going forward. Does a good job with it, but that's why it ends up a little short of the end of the dive, is because she's taking off and kind of going in the wrong trajectory.
Jennifer Bell, the senior, just missed being on the podium in the 3-meter yesterday. Second final of the week for the veteran from UVA.
And obviously they have such a great program on the women's side for Virginia, contributing to their team points as well. So I like her takeoff. We've got to get out just a little earlier so that she can reach out in front of where she's going to go in and stop it. It's super aggressive. It's just a little bit too fast and out of control on the entry.
You see her coach's reaction there to how she had her shoulders.
Yeah, through that, like, okay, here's where we're going, and then kind of, okay, done our recap, and then move on to the last one and keep fighting.
Emily Grund was third in the 3-meter yesterday, sitting third coming into the finals here tonight after the prelims earlier.
So we saw her do a reverse spinning dive before. Now we're going to see her do a reverse twisting dive. And what I like about, again, still a little bit on that left-hand corner of the diving board, but not as much, and it lets it still go forward and square, gets to vertical, loses her feet a little bit in between, some form, minor form.
Mia Valle from Miami on the way. Again, the NCAA champion. Second in the ACCs last year. Trying to move up one spot this year. Here in round number 5.
And this is the lower degree of difficulty for her. This is a back 1.5 somersault pike. And again, we've got so much power, we have to control the finish. Watch, look at how far she's just past the somersault. Her feet are pointing down at the water as she lets go and controls the entry. Really pretty. Randy likes it.
Aranza Vasquez Montano from UNC won the 3-meter yesterday, trying to run it back and win the 1-meter springboard today.
Same twisting dive we just saw her teammate Emily do here a couple dives ago. Reverse 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. So you're going to see something you don't see a whole lot in women's diving, is that look how far she pushes the board down. You're going to see it actually touch the water and dip it and then come back up, and she goes above the diving board. That was fantastic. Very good scores on that, 8.5s and up.
So it comes down to the 6th and final round. Last dives for all of these athletes here in the 1-meter springboard. Izzy Mraz, the 5th-year senior in her first final, up first.
Her final dive is a back 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. So she's going to start backwards, flip 1.5 times, spin on her axis 1.5 times, and then try to go in the water vertical with her feet together, and a nice clean entry. So what you see in there is a couple of those little kind of form talk things I'm talking about, where she's not quite tight with her legs together, and so her feet are kind of split in the twisting dive. It's still solid, it's still a satisfactory dive, but it's not going to give you those good to very good scores in the 0.5 to 9.5 range.
And do you see much changing in the standings in this final round, the way things are unfolding here?
Not necessarily. I think there can be some shakeup in there. Some of those places, obviously, you know, from 3rd to 7th was all separated by just a few points, so it's pretty close in there. There's a pretty big gap between 1st and 2nd there. Big hug from Coach Mark Bradshaw there for Grace.
And now Samantha Veer from Florida State. Was 6th in the 3-meter yesterday, trying to get up inside the top 5 at least here today.
So her final dive is also a twisting dive. It's a forward spinning dive with 2 twists, so it's a front 1.5 with 2 twists. That's a much better hurdle and balance on that. than the last dive she did with a hurdle. And again, you kind of have to wish that away. Love her hurdle. She steps down. Her toes are right on the end. Big and pretty in the twist feet together. Lovely form. Straight up and down. Gonna get 7.5, 8. Love that. Big hug from Coach John Proctor there, Olympic coach. Really nice.
And now Lindsey Gizzi of Louisville with her final dive. The transfer from Colorado State, trying to take advantage of her first ever final here tonight. Trying to move up a few places here.
So again, back 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists for her as well. So I like the dive there. What I would say is that it's a little bit too far back from the good. The 7s are better, but it's probably going to be right in there. Nice position, up and down. Didn't finish quite.
And now Jennifer Bell, University of Virginia, in her second final of the week. 4th in the 3-meter yesterday. Hoping she can climb at least one spot to get on the podium here tonight.
Well, that's certainly going to help her cause. That was it's big and powerful. It could be a little deeper in the pike position, but solid straight up and down. I was trying to avoid the announcer jinx before she did her last dive. I was like, I haven't seen her miss a dive where she hasn't been vertical, and the second to last
right.
one she did, and I was like, I'm glad I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Coach Josh there pretty happy with that performance as well.
Finishes off her evening here.
Yeah.
And we're down to the final 3 divers, beginning with UNC's Emily Grund, the 5th-year senior, hoping to be on the podium for the 2nd straight evening.
Emily's also finishing with the back 1.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. I love that. You can see her feet cross just a little bit, where they separate in the middle of the air there, but then they get back together, and love the way she points her toes and how it goes in.
So now down to the last 2, Mia Valle of Miami next. Again, the NCAA champion from last year, was 2nd in the 8. And now our last dive of the night here in this 1-meter springboard.
So you're going to see her do the forward 1.5 somersaults with 2 twists again at 2.6 degree of difficulty, so just a 10th higher than that back 1.5, 1.5. And really solid up and down entry, big, huge hurdle and jump, which we love to see that power. If anything, maybe a little loose in the knees as it goes through. Isn't quite square on the twist, a little off axis, as you can see that. It's kind of hard to tell from our angle, but I think the judges maybe thought that was just an inch past twisted.
And now the final dive of the night, and staring at her 2nd win in the last 2 days, Aranza Vasquez Montano of North Carolina with her most difficult dive of the evening.
This is a reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. Looking for another one here. That emotion, but look, she's really high in her hurdle, just slightly over the end with her toes, but still in the water, and gets it. Good kick. Ends up with the same total points as she did earlier today, and that 379.2, just behind the ACC record, but sets the meet record here that was held by Abby Johnson.
She gets the win, and we'll talk to Aranza Marquez Montano after this victory when we bring you back for some final thoughts from Greensboro. As we come back, it is Aranza Vasquez Montano of North Carolina getting the win in the women's 1-meter springboard diving competition. Mia Valle of Miami 2nd, and Jennifer Bell of Virginia completing the podium in 3rd. Aranza, we appreciate you joining us. Thanks for taking the time. Congratulations. And how would you evaluate your performance across all 6 dives here tonight?
Oh my God, I was dying. I was really nervous. Maybe you couldn't tell, but I was shaking. But I just trusted myself, trusted my corrections from my coach, and everything worked out.
It was so exciting to see you kind of go through that process. I know chasing that title, the first one, how does it feel to have your first ACC title on 1 meter? I know you've got them on 3 meter, but now you got one on 1 meter too.
It feels amazing. Since my freshman year, I wanted to win that board. Something happened. Same with sophomore year, but finally got it. I'm really happy and really excited.
Congratulations, great job. I know
Thank
you're not
you.
done for the weekend, but awesome work.
Thank you.